The last thing I'll talk about, and the last strategy, is also somewhat new, but even though we have talked about it in the past, but we're doubling down on it, and that's rural development. As I mentioned, we've got so many of our communities across our state that are excelling. I mean, I've got an apartment here in Nashville. I look out the window and there's 18 cranes. Construction is your biggest nemesis. There's things going on everywhere. So it's such an exciting place to be. And at the exact same time, so many of our neighbors are suffering. I believe we're only as rich as our poorest neighbor, and we have neighbors that are struggling. So we've got to reach out and help them. We can't be a successful Team Tennessee if some of our team isn't winning. We all got to win together. So talking about rural development. Rural development is many things. It's not just about placing a factory. In fact, in a lot of communities, a factory is maybe the last thing that you would want to do. But here's some things that I think are key things that we need to look at when we think about rural development. One is education. It starts with education. If you've got a community, and we have one county, I won't mention them just now, but their post-secondary attainment today is 6%. Now, they know this, and they're really working hard to improve it. But I can tell you, if your post-secondary attainment, your workforce is at 6%, businesses need it to be at 55%, it's going to be really hard to talk them into moving there. So we've got to make sure that we have educational excellence in every one of our communities. So that's job one. We talked about sites. If there's not a site there, it's not going to happen. So we've got to be a better partner as a state to make sure that all of our communities have the opportunity to develop the sites that they need. It's also about entrepreneurship. Jackson Kayak is a great example. You can have entrepreneurs anywhere in our state. Today, you can do business anywhere in the world, from anywhere in the world. And some business entrepreneurs choose to do it in our rural communities. We've got a breakout also on rural entrepreneurship. That'll also be one that you should probably want to attend. I would say you should attend. The problem, however, with doing business anywhere in the world, from anywhere in the world, is that you have to be connected. You had to be connected to broadband. You have to have access to the internet. Unfortunately, there are a lot of communities across our state that don't. So another area in which we're going to focus on is trying to lead some analysis around how we get from here to there. And Amy New, again, I think we'll talk more about that, but that's also another key thing that we're looking at. In many places, though, like I mentioned, Van Buren County, probably Polk County, probably many others, probably be difficult to put a factory in those communities. In fact, in some cases, you probably wouldn't want to put a factory there. And so in a lot of cases, economic development is tourism. We've got a breakout with Commissioner Triplett that's going to talk about economic development. Tourism is economic development. In many cases, that's true. We want to be a partner, a closer partner. We already are a close partner. We're going to be an even closer partner with Commissioner Triplett in tourism and making sure that we all work together to help develop these economic assets and recognize that it is part of our economic equation. And lastly, of course, agriculture is key. Many parts of our state, agriculture is still the number one industry in those communities, and it is important that we partner with all of our folks in the Department of Agriculture on those initiatives. Two things that aren't mentioned but that are part and parcel to everything is transportation. You have to have a road to every business. One thing that I've discovered pretty early on was that every single business that we set up, every single factory has a road to it. You're going to have access. And so Commissioner Shore is going to come and speak to us tomorrow and talk about some updates on things that are going on in the Department of Transportation. And of course, education cuts across everything that we've talked about. And Commissioner McQueen is also going to join us tomorrow and share some thoughts about what they're doing in the K through 12 space of education. Actually, she would not like me saying that because she is not focused on K through 12. She's focused on K through success. So it's not about you finish at 12th grade. It's about what you do afterwards. And I think that's exciting to have her leading that department. So if you're going to focus on anything, it starts with leadership. It's nice to just talk about rural development, but if you're just talking about it, you get distracted. There's so many other things that you do at any given day, and next thing you know, it's that good idea that you forgot about or didn't have time to get around to. So it starts with leadership, and we're excited that one of our team members was able to take over the role of Assistant Commissioner for Rural Development, and that's Amy New, and she's going to share her story with you, but I'm sure that when you hear her story, you'll be as convinced as I am that she's the absolute right person for this job. She's got experience in rural communities, she's passionate about it, she's intelligent, and I know she's going to be successful with all of our support. And she's got, again, if I could be any other person today, I would be Amy New because she's got some exciting things to be able to share with you today. So I'm envious of her role today. Before I bring up Amy, and she's next, we're going to have a little interlude and share a video with you, a video of Scott County. But the Scott County story is a Tennessee story. It's not just about Scott County. You could change some names and some buildings, and make this the same video in many places across our state, and even in some pockets of communities in Knox County and some of our Tier 1 counties. But it's a story of struggle, it's a story of determination, of optimism, and eventually of success. And it's exciting to see this story. I think you'll be moved by it, as I think we all have when we watch it. And it's a perfect segue into bringing Amy up. I want to share with you in conclusion just two thoughts, or two things. One, turns out that we're not a rich state. I just found that out pretty early on in this job. I should have known this coming into the job. It wasn't part of the sales pitch when the governor recruited me. But on the first day, actually the first day, when I was officially on the job, I got the budget and saw that we had $50 million in fast track money. That's the money that we use to incentivize business. And I thought, wow, $50 million, that's a lot of money. We're going to be able to do unbelievable things with $50 million. Until then, almost immediately afterwards, somebody pointed out to me that the state of New York has $100 million in their advertising budget, not their incentive budget. This is just the money that they spend to get you to come to take a look at what they have to offer you. So realizing pretty quickly that we're never going to outspend New York or California or Texas. We're never going to be able to go up head to head. But this was about the time that the NCAA tournament was going on. I probably need to come up with a new metaphor. This is kind of dated. I don't have any good football ones, sadly. But looking back at the tournament, not a big fan of Kentucky, by the way, but also being from Tennessee. But you saw the team from Kentucky, and they had 5 superstars that were probably all going to go first round in the NBA draft. Just they were undefeated, unstoppable. They had every resource, all the talent. But they went up against a team from Wisconsin that had none of that. I mean, they had some good players, but nobody that was going to be drafted in the first round. And yet, when Wisconsin played Kentucky, Wisconsin beat them. So I have this theory that the reason why Wisconsin beat Kentucky was because they played better as a team. So that's when I think about our state, I think about Team Tennessee, I think that's how we win. That's how we beat Texas or compete with Texas and some of these other more wealthy states. If we can play better as a team, I think we can be successful. We can make this the greatest time in the history of Tennessee. It's all through Team Tennessee. I want to conclude with one last comment. I'm going to have to read a quote from you. So I'm not necessarily a big fan of John Donne, the English poet, but I'm a huge fan of Ernest Hemingway. And so I'm going to quote Ernest Hemingway quoting John Donne. And so to make sure I get that right, because it doesn't speak in normal English, that I'll read this to you. So no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of a continent, a part of the main. And therefore, never sin to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for thee. So when I think of our communities that struggle, we all struggle. We are all Tennesseans, and we're all in this together. We are Team Tennessee. Thank you.